This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January, we have 365 brand new pages, right? This is metaphor now, not actual. You're not given a refill pad. Anyway, you've got 365 blank pages. Maybe you're ready for a fresh start. Maybe there's part of your story you've wanted to reimagine and restart. Maybe you're looking for a plot twist. Therapy isn't about resolutions that are forgotten memory come February. It's about becoming the author of your own life in every single sense. Therapy helps you learn positive coping skills, set boundaries, and discover new ways to be the best version of yourself. And no, therapy isn't just for big life events or traumas. Took me quite a while to realise that. It's for anybody ready to write a meaningful new chapter. With over 5,000 therapists, BetterHelp connects you to mental health professionals with expertise in a wide variety of areas. Write your story with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Megan. That's betterhelp.com/Megan.
Go loud.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? How are you doing? Happy New Year. Happy 2025. It's good to be back. I am so delighted to be sitting here talking to you hand in hand, side by side as we embark on another new year together. The podcast is almost 1 year old. We're 1 year old at the end of January, is it, Kieran?
Mid-January.
Mid-January. If you're wondering what that voice is in the background, my dear listener, as always, hoisted between my milky cannons, from the womb to the hearse with an unquenching thirst. He's in need of a doctor, but he always chooses the wet nurse. It's my milk-obsessed boob fiend, Kieran. How are we, boy?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Kieran. Kieran, do you have any 2025 predictions for us? Have you seen this on Instagram? Guys, look, I'm not going to deride anybody for having New Year's resolutions. In fact, I have a few myself. I'm not going to say them out loud because if I do, I need to quietly persevere and not do my usual sort of ADHD thing where I have a flurry of energy for about 48 hours around the thing and then I forget about it and move on. So look, if you have a New Year's resolution, I wish you the best of luck with it. Genuinely, sincerely. Self-growth and self-compassion are two of the most important cornerstones of existence. But you know what I do actually not like? Have you seen these Instagram reels doing the rounds of people dropping their what's out for 2024 and what's in for 2025? Like, oh, here's my 2025 predictions. Do you know, as told to you by somebody who couldn't accurately predict the latest winner of Love Island. Do you know what I mean? Or that traffic might be heavy during rush hour. Yet we're supposed to take their foresight into account when it comes to global shifts in culture and politics. Do me a favour. Here are my ins for 2025. Cool, you, in the bin, please. Get into, do you know what I mean? Oh, and my outs for 2024 is sadness. Sorry? Yeah, like the amount of slop in the wellness world that we just need to address. One of my ins for 2025 is joy. What do you mean joy? As if that's something that people have forgotten about, or it's something that we used to do, but it's past its sell-by date, like wolf whistling or ring girls at boxing matches. Do you know what I mean? My out for 2024 is sadness and my in for 25 is joy. Good stuff. You've just eradicated universal despair with one simple Instagram list. Fair play. Happy New Year, Kieran. Fetch me the number for Alfred Noble because this person has discovered the keys to eternal contentment. No? Anyway, do you know what? And forgive the voice. I've got a bit of a something. I have discovered a feeling that is greater than sex, love, and matrimony put together. If you could combine the sensation of winning the lottery, Kieran, and discovering Nirvana, it would pale in comparison to this, okay? After spending 34, somewhat colourful, let's be honest, years on this rock we call Earth, I have come to realise there is no sensation, drunk, sober, or otherwise, that will elevate me to the euphoric heights. That is, ready? Witnessing a person trying to skip a queue, but then getting called out at the top of the queue and being sent all the way back down to the bottom. And by the way, my boy, the juicy little vindictive cherry on top of this particular cake of schadenfreude is when you get to make eye contact with them as they're walking down the queue and you're like, that's what you fucking get. Take that. We're in the queue for the Jewish History Museum, right? Myself and Darren. Okay, went to Berlin for a few days. We took a momentary sidestep from our usual Gallic perversions and we went to Germany for a couple of days over Christmas, okay? We were in the queue for the Jewish History Museum. It was -3 degrees. It was absolutely freezing. Everybody was cold, but because of the context, there's a communal sense of reverence and just a collective awareness of the importance of what you're about to do. So people keep their voices low and they get their museum dispositions. You know, when people in the queue for a museum, they get all very, I'm in a museum. I'm a museum person. We go to museums, And anyway, we're all in the queue, and all of a sudden, over my left shoulder, I go into hyper awareness mode. By the way, in queues because I'm a complete lunatic. But I see this woman coming up the flanks, right, in her late 60s, and she is. I mean, she's like Jessica Fletcher on MDMA. She is just hammering up the wing like Tommy Bow, trying to bypass all of us rule abiders, and split the queue like Moses, given the context, pun. Nevertheless, she did that thing where she first pretended to not know what the queue was. What is that? Have you seen this? People like, what is that? They sort of stare around gawpishly as if they don't know where the queue begins, middles or ends. Anyway, she got up to the left, and she tore up to the top, and I was like frothing at the bit. Darren was like, you need to calm down. It's Christmas. She gets to the top, bang, no entry, persona non grata. And she gets dragged down to the bottom, sandwiched between two security guards like a disgraced streaker. The only thing that was missing was a piece of tinfoil from her arse. I swear to God, it made my Christmas. That was the happiest moment of my year. Nevertheless, Happy New Year, Kieran. Let's start as we mean to go on. Let's talk about funerals. This is sensitive subject matter, so of course we're going to handle it with care. There shouldn't be any trigger warnings for people. This isn't some sort of weird roast of grief or anything disturbing or anything like that. So it is all generally a light-hearted look at people's strange behaviours around funerals. If you are grieving at the moment, our thoughts are with you. Now look, the first entrant in contribution into today's show, I'm just going to play this because this is potentially top 5 submissions to the podcast that we've ever gotten. We have to get this guy onto the red chair in Graham Norton. That's all I'm going to say. This is one of the greatest things that I've ever heard in my life. Let's go.
Well, Mark, story. So I'm a church musician, and I was doing this funeral about 15, 16 years ago, and the family of the deceased requested, as a reflection after communion, the Near My God today, but they wanted the exact recording from Titanic. So I went on to iTunes, found a recording, listened to the 30 seconds that the iTunes let me, brand, paid 99p for the track, burned it onto a CD, and the priest was playing it from the altar. Anyway, I came to the reflection, people are all getting very sad and very emotional and all this, and I was standing there going, I actually haven't listened to this full track. So I started to panic a bit. Anyway, it was all going grand, and about 2 minutes were done, and I was like, right, surely it's going to wrap up now, and people are crying, it was all very sad. So I'm just going to play you the track, and that's exactly what came across.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight.
So yeah, safe to say, I wanted the ground to open up and eat me up. And then the priest got up and said, let us pray, as if nothing happened. So that's my Irish funeral story.
World class. Absolutely world class. It'll be hard to beat that one. That is just listen to the song firstly, download the song, listen to it in full. That is derangement. And this is like the Paul Hollywood handshake for the first. This is straight out the bat. That is derangement. On we go.
Hi, Mark. So, a sympathiser at my dad's removal, who will remain unnamed, basically said, yeah, sorry for your loss, but then proceeded to tell me all the presents that my current boyfriend had bought me at the time, because he had met him earlier on, shopping. And yeah, sorry for your loss. Jesus, I met himself today and he bought you this and this and this and this and this and this for Christmas. Sound lad.
Okay, I love this. I love this because it perfectly encapsulates the sort of frenzied, instinctive tendency we have as Irish people to immediately soften the blow of anything bad by following up by saying something good. Do you know what I mean? Like we're allergic to closure in this country. Avoidance could be our national sport. Like even if we're breaking up with somebody, we sort of break up with them and then we're like, yeah, but like we'll probably see each other around, as if that's like a consolation prize. Do you know? Sorry, mate, no interest in pursuing a life together anymore, but if you're lucky, you might get to see me in Dunn's every now and then in the frozen food section. Do you know what I mean? So I actually find this guy at the funeral, I find it a little bit endearing because we find it impossible to be completely morose in Ireland and leave a sentence on the negative foot. We have to sort of wrap it up in a little bit of a positive manner. Sorry to hear about the incident there with your father. Very, very sorry for your loss. Do you like Charlotte Tilbury? Do you a bit of concealer? Yeah, Simon's got you some, I think. No, he wasn't himself towards the end. No, Jesus, no, it robbed him of all his dignity entirely. Do you like the Dyson Airwrap? Do you? You do, of course. Happy Christmas. Very sorry for your loss. No, you've got a Nintendo Wii. Sorry. Well, hello? Sorry for that. No, Jesus, shocking. No, he doesn't look like himself at all. No, splattered on the pavement. Taken far too soon altogether. He was a fit man. And you're getting a Fitbit. That was another thing I saw today. You're getting a Fitbit, yeah, from Curry's. So, yeah. Your father was a good man, and your boys did good too. What size are you in Lululemon leggings, actually? I believe the arse you have to size down twice, I think, anyway. But the bus came out of nowhere. Rest in peace. A piece of jewellery as well, actually. Do you know what I mean? On we go.
Hi, Mark. So it was about 15 years ago, my dad's funeral. He died suddenly, and we, as a family, run a few businesses of grocery stores. So anyway, we were all in our family home and our dad was being waked there. And this dude rocks up to the house and doesn't say anything to anybody, just comes into the sitting room where my dad is laid out and asks my sister if we still have the Miller for €12. It was just a case of if you didn't laugh, you cry. People are weird.
This is just absolutely actually, to be honest, perfectly describes the type of person who I imagine would drink Miller. Do you know what I mean? The sort of super dry jacket with 63 zips and the bootcut jeans over the base cut loafers, or the base London loafers. What sort of pervert? I mean, okay, I am the last person in the world who can judge anybody else for who or how and what they consume alcohol wise. But Miller, have a personality. Nothing says like, I don't know, the Kaiser Chiefs in Slane Castle, like a bottle of Miller, twisty tops. Do you know that? Miller is real. Do you listen to Keane? Isn't it? Miller's real like gym plus coffee, zippy hoodie, missionary sex in the back of a Nissan Micra after the parent-teacher meeting, sort of, isn't it? That's sort of... Kieran, what's that in your... Is that a Miller? I see. No, but also showing up to a funeral asking, do they have sorry for you. Do you still have the boxes of Miller for €12? No, this is get out. Just get out of my house now. Good luck. Whatever.
Was at a funeral during the eulogy where they were saying about the great man. The dead guy was this fellow beside me says, mine's the right funeral because all I knew was a fucker all his life. And he didn't exactly say it quiet.
I love the honesty. He was a fucker all his life. Good stuff. And by the way, when I die, okay, take some notes, Karen. I'd like you to be. When I die, don't do any of this celebration of his life stuff. Do you know what I mean? Give it. I want the streets to be lined with grief, like with mourners, okay? I want people to be pulling their hair out with misery. Darren is never allowed to move on. Do you know what I mean? When I go, you're all coming down with me. I don't want any of this. He was a great character. He wasn't. He was problematic, neurotic, and he's, nevertheless, I do think some of the eulogies, are a little bit, they're just insincere, Although we're saddened by the loss of Desmond, we can all rejoice, having been touched by his kindness, his patience, and of course, his virtue. I once saw him wedge a screwdriver in a Tesco trolley because he couldn't find a €2 coin, and then proceeded to blame it on a slow-paced pensioner when he got caught at the front desk. A relatively big scene unfolded. He then watched from the sidelines with glee as the pensioner first kicked up a fuss with the confusion of it all, before ultimately being tasered in the arse by security, subdued, folded up like a Turkish rug, and shoved in the back of a paddy wagon. Desmond was a generous man, both of time and, of course, of spirit. He used to call the Troker box his piggy bank for Tuesday night pints. Do you know what I mean? And he robbed more bottles of water in Dublin Airport than the presenter of this podcast. The man was only generous with insults and wandering hands. Our dear Desmond, a long supporting fan of the arts, he kept a picture of Kirsty Gallagher in his wallet since 1998 and was once done for public indecency as he got caught rubbing one out in the last remaining telephone booth in Roscommon. The guy was a complete pervert. Let's go.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, me and a friend of mine went to this funeral of a fellow we used to play Ga with. He died quite young, so it's quite a sad event. And when we got to the line where you shake hands with the parents, my buddy didn't really know what to say because it was kind of such a tragic event, and he only kind of knew the family through sport and through the GAN stuff. So when he got to the top of the line, he's kind of, instead of saying sorry for your loss, his head completely flipped into sport mode, and he just started saying hard luck to all of them. Like, your man's mother was crying, and my buddy's there shaking her hand, just going, "Oh yeah, hard luck." Do you know, as if he's beating her like 3-12 to 2 points or something down the park.
It's just absolutely incredible. Putting the mother in a headlock, demanding she wears a gum shield, you know what I mean, up to the graveyard. And he mistakes the urn for a trophy. Like, jocks are just in a league of their own. I will never forget, oh my God, we were in third year in school, right? And we had done The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. You ever read The Outsiders? Ponyboy. Oh, magic. She wrote it when she was 17. I remember sitting there in third year being like, well, that's good. My life's already a failure because I'm 15, I've got 2 pubes and all I've written are a few bad raps. This is a disaster. And S.C. Hinton, yeah, she wrote this book when she was 17. Anyway, we read The Outsiders and it's a phenomenal book, but we were in class and we had to write like a 3-page essay, and I think it was something like, our English teacher was trying to introduce similes or, getting us to use more expressive adjectives or something like this for the junior cert. And the guy in my class, the biggest jock in the class, came in and she was like, "Jack, I want you to do your essay." And he was like, "I actually didn't really get much of it done last night." And she was like, "Okay, well, can you just do something for the class here? We're describing Cherry Valentine. Cherry Valentine was the love interest, the auburn-haired love interest of Ponyboy. Or was it Soda Pop? I don't know, in The Outsiders." And she just goes, "Can you please go up to the board and write out 5 adjectives to describe the relationship Ponyboy has with Cherry Valentine?" And he just looks up and goes, "She's a ginge." The fucking stupidity of it. This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Each new year gives us 365 blank pages to fill, and this year could be the perfect time for a plot twist. Maybe there's a chapter you've been meaning to rewrite, or a new journey that you're ready to begin. And having written my own book, I know every writer needs a good editor, and this is exactly where therapy can help. Therapy can be your editorial partner, helping you create a story filled with growth, strength, and meaning. It's not just for major challenges, which is something that it took me a long time to realise. It's about learning healthy coping skills, setting boundaries, and becoming the best version of yourself. With over 5,000 therapists, BetterHelp connects you to mental health professionals with expertise in a wide variety of areas. Write your story with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Megan. That's betterhelp.com/Megan.
Take my money.
Introducing the Kentucky Original Wrap from KFC. It's a crispy original recipe fillet in a lightly toasted tortilla with black pepper mayo and iceberg lettuce. It's €2.90. It's a deal. And it's available at KFC now. Grab it before it goes. Until February 9th, subject to availability. Participating restaurants only. Not available on delivery. See website for full T's and C's.
Oh, it's very good to be back, guys. Happy New Year. As I said at the beginning, I hope you're doing well and I hope your head's in the all right place as we start a new year. Listen, thank you so much for your support, by the way, for the whole of 2024, and I look forward to lots of things and exciting things coming your way in 2025. If you're a fan of me, if you're a fan of my work, please consider subscribing to my Patreon, patreon.com/Mark Megan. The link is in the bio. New articles released every week and lots of other interesting bonus content. If you don't have enough from the weekly roast and you want more, subscribe to the Patreon. Now look, it's the roast of funerals. Guys, I just again want to remind you before we get into this section, which is, dare I say, derangement levels. This is not to make light of anybody experiencing loss at the moment or going through grief. This is purely a light-hearted approach to some of the mad stuff that happens around funerals. And because to be honest, we had a lot of loss. There was a period of a few years in our family from 2014. There's 2 years where we just half of our family on one side was effectively wiped out, and it was obviously horrific. But there are always moments at almost when you're experiencing the most acute amount of pain, that there are just these brief flickers of hilarity that seem to happen. And look, at the end of the day, people get weird about death, probably because most of us, including myself, can't intellectually come to terms with the fact that time is fleeting and we're all just dust and all of this will disappear. So whenever somebody does permanently leave our lives, we can't wrestle with that reality, so our brains just temporarily malfunction and we act bananas. And that seems to be on both sides of grief, both the sufferers but also the people near it. Nevertheless, please bear that in mind as we embark on this midsection, because it is just, look, let's just play it, Kieran.
Hi, Mark. So I was at a funeral a couple of months ago, and unfortunately this man had passed away, and his ex showed up and wanted to see if her ex was stiff, shall we say. No. So she ripped the satin kind of covering and she opened his trousers and had a look. Isn't that shocking?
Yes, it's absolutely outrageous. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just going to nip up to this. Oh, just the satin. What's he wearing satin boxers for? Who is this? Hugh Hefner. Do you know what I mean? Hugo Hefner from County. The real question here is, what was she going to do then? Do you know what I mean? What was she going to do if she actually got the hard penis out of the trousers? This is absolute, was she tapping it in the same way somebody does during sound check to a microphone? Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to slip up there and take my ex's penis out of my deceased ex's penis out of his pantaloons and see if it's still stiff. What do you mean? What difference does it make? What difference does it make if it was if it is stiff, what are we going to do? Oh, Father Fitz, give us a booster. The prayers of the faithful gang are nearly here and I wouldn't mind at least 3 orgasms before the Angelus. This is complete and utter insanity. Oh, I just want to check if he's stiff. Why? Well, you know what that means. No, I don't know what it means. What could that possibly tell you? If he died with an erection, it doesn't matter. Unless He was found dead with an album of your holiday photos in his hands. I don't see how it could be relevant as to whether or not his penis was erect. This is absolutely hat in my hands, derangement levels, Kieran. What do you think?
Cock in your hands.
Brilliant. Let's go.
Hey Mark, love the pod. A few years ago, my grandfather passed away, and my aunt's husband went to fix my granddad's jacket whilst he was in the coffin, and accidentally touched my granddad's cock. And nobody actually seen it happen. And on the day of the funeral, back afterwards, when they're all having their tea and sandwiches in the pub, myself and my brother were playing pool with my aunt's husband, and he burst out laughing out of nowhere, and we were looking at him like, what is wrong with him? And he turned around and he said, I've something to tell you, but you can't tell anyone. Now, bear in mind, my aunt is like an uptight bitch and would be absolutely horrified if she heard this had happened. And he basically said what had happened. And he said, I touched your granddad's cock and it was like a rock.
Yeah.
I was in absolute convulsions from laughing. I nearly gave myself a hernia from laughing. It was the funniest thing I have ever heard. And to this day, it is hilarious when I see him because that's all I can think about.
I say this with the greatest respect. I think your uncle's hard drive should be examined. Do you know what I mean? This is, he deserves to be Tulsa. Somebody needs to make a house call to this absolute, I never thought in the year that we've been doing this podcast, I would hear the sentence, he touched my granddad's cock, for that to be perfectly normal. Like, hold on. So he accidentally, as you say, touched your granddad's cock. But then the crux of this, okay, and the crux of the insanity in this one is, you then say, and nobody saw it. So he had the perfect out. He never had to mention it ever again. But he couldn't help himself. Do you know what? That was a bit of an interesting skirmish with the dead man's phallus. I should probably wait until I have my niece and nephew by marriage alone in the snooker in the snooker hall, and then I'll tell them, like, what the hell was going through his head? That is just, does that happen to the Willie though?
Yeah.
I don't think it does, unless, no.
Any funeral directors out there?
Somebody did message me from one funeral home. Does that happen? Or doctors? I'm assuming, like, if you were to die mid-coit, I don't know. Yeah, I did. Look, yeah, it's just all okay. Let's on Eva.
Hi, Mark and Kieran.
Oh,
So a few years ago, a girl I knew went back to the house of her friend whose dad had just unfortunately passed away. They were friends for a number of years. Nothing ever romantically had happened between them, but I suppose the alcohol was flowing after the funeral, and one thing led to another, and she ended up sleeping with him in the conservatory of his parents' house. But the two of them fell asleep completely naked and woke up to the newly widowed, disgusted mother looking at them the next morning. Love the show.
good stuff. Good grief. Do you like that? Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking. My son is getting his bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, for he is about to come. Look, as we know, as discussed, grief is the strangest of all emotions. It takes the rhyme and reason and often more from your everyday life. So people occasionally act a little bit odd when reeling from the loss of a loved one. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Somebody messaged me to say that there is an actual Freudian relationship between sex and death, where people often feel compelled to have sex at moments of grief because of that relationship between, like, a primitive relationship between starting new life and death. Interesting. I blocked them in the end because he started sending me pictures as well. He was...
It was the fella from the last night.
Yeah, it was the same uncle. He was parked in a van outside a Costa with something in his hand that looked like a flesh-coloured torch. Nevertheless, the sleeping with somebody after your dad's funeral, yeah, like, these things, people are people, and they respond in interesting ways. Maybe he just needed to find solace in physical intimacy and companionship, all the rest. What I can't abide by, though, Kieran, under any circumstances, is going to sleep naked, okay? I'm certain we've discussed this before on the podcast, but going to sleep in the nude is for toddlers or the Spanish. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're being fed grapes on the French Riviera or being fed breast by your own mother, which you'd love, you bloody milkman. You know, nudity for me is just not on the cards when sleeping. It's perverted. Anytime I try it, I feel like I'm awaiting surgery or to be smeared in P20 by my mother on a sun holiday age 4. I just don't, in a non-invasive way, of course. I just sleep in nude. Do you?
Oh, you need a pair of boxers.
And by the way, and I'm going to get absolutely roasted for this, socks.
What age are you?
I need this. I don't know. Is it an ND thing? Because everybody telling me that I do these. Anyway, yeah, I can't sleep without socks on. I don't feel, I need, otherwise I'm exposed.
The monsters under the bed might get you.
A friend of mine, back in the Wild West days of Facebook, a friend of mine from school set up this Facebook page and it was literally sleeping with both legs under the duvet in case a monster. He waited until the page got to like 2.3 million likes. And this was back when you could change the name of Facebook pages. And then he just changed it to something like, I'm not going to say it out loud, but let's just say, my boy, derangement, levels of problematic humour. Nevertheless, on we go.
Hey Mark, so I was at a funeral of someone who was very close to me, and we were all by the graveside, and they were just putting down the coffin on 2 plinths right beside the grave. And one of the funeral directors actually he tripped.
No.
And the coffin went upside down.
No.
The coffin was actually the coffin was actually standing upright. So poor lady inside the coffin was literally standing up. And it turned out your man that tripped actually broke his hip. So everyone looked around for the nurse, aka me, and I missed all the funeral. And then my husband had to drive the hearse home.
All I can think about in terms of the guy falling and the coffin being upright is like one of those tanning beds they used to have in Chartbusters. Do you remember that back? What was that, by the way? Was it the 90s or the early noughties? People nipping down to Chartbusters of a Friday evening to rent 2 DVDs, a packet of toffee popcorn, and nip in for a quick 15-minute tan to come out in a shade that, let's be honest, can only be described as problematic. Like, you know, or Austin Powers. They should do that at funerals. They should have the coffin upright with a glass front. So they're observing the entire sort of mourning process. The guy getting to drive the hearse back, we had lots of weird stories coming in about people driving the hearse. One that I'm going to read out. As you know, I don't usually like reading them out because we demand voice notes. But I got this one from a guy yesterday. And he goes, friend of mine's granny died and his uncles made the coffin out of plywood and used his work van as the hearse. Van full of tools. Didn't even bother cleaning it out. Like, why not just tie a rope around her waist and strap her to the back of a scrambler, Saddam Hussein style? Do you know what I mean? Like, just a bit of an Al Qaeda gag there. So, there you go. I'm sorry. Okay, keep going.
Hey Mark, so a good few years back, I went over to the Aran Islands for my 30th birthday. There was a bunch of us, a few bottles of Prosecco were opened on the ferry. We kind of all landed off the ferry in great form, tumbled into the first pub we saw. There was a DJ set up. We ordered drinks. We were all dressed in feather boas. We had little 30 stickers stuck to our boobs. So great form. First song we asked was Poker Face by Lady Gaga, and we were just bopping all over the pub, having a great time. So we kind of went on for half an hour now, drinks flowing, music getting louder and dancier. And then eventually one of us was like, oh, we play Fateless Insomnia. And the DJ very nicely was like, lads, that's a bit much now for a wake. So we turned around and in the corner there was a bunch of mourners. We just saw people in black. So we had accidentally crashed someone's funeral. We went straight over. We were very apologetic. We said, obviously, we didn't realise. We didn't mean to disrespect. And they just said, nonsense. That's exactly what Cowboy would have wanted. To Cowboy Daily. So to this day, we still toast Cowboy Daily.
Go on, Cowboy Daily.
Oh, and a little disclaimer there. When I say we had 38 stickers stuck to our boobs, I mean over our clothes. We weren't that bad.
Thanks for the clarification. I absolutely love this. I think the real villain in this story is the DJ. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the way this DJ, who clearly plays it very fast and loose with reverence, decides to draw the line at faithless. Do you know what I mean? That's when the sensible, grieving maestro comes into play. Gaga poker face, absolutely. Crack on, girls. But faithless, have a bit of respect. Do you know what I mean? What sort of, like, sentimentally pedantic DJ is this? I like Lady Gaga, but you must be going, Gaga, if you think I'm playing faithless. This is... He quietly turns down the smoke machine, switches off the confetti canisters, and asks the roaming saxophonist to play The Way We Were by Barbara Streisand instead of Clanger Russell. Do you know what I mean? Why did he wait that long to tell them it's awake? When they come in with the sashes and the stuff glued to their boobs, that's the moment when you go, listen guys, sorry to tell you, but we've actually, there is a wake here. So we have to be sort of particular with the music that we play. Also, Cian de Crow's been hiding under a pile of coats for the last 3 weeks waiting to go viral again. So if you wouldn't mind just keeping the buzz down. Forget less willy straws. Do you know what I mean? If you want a hard willy, by the way, the casket, no. But look, I want to see the set list of this DJ because it's just completely insane. It's almost as insane as me last night eating 6 banoffee pie protein yogurts for dessert and still convincing myself that it's going to help me lose weight. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, just before we go, saxophones and DJ, you know, there is no oral torture quite like the pairing of a saxophone accompanying a DJ. It's worse than the sound of an angry mother sacking a dishwasher or a man in his mid-30s describing his sporting achievements from secondary school. Saxophones, when paired with DJs, are effectively musical cattle prods to herd the morons together and create an invisible disco prison that only incarcerates estate agents, life coaches and your mates who move to Dubai. And that's before, my friends, we even discuss the music. Here's a relatively good house track. Why don't we get a guy dressed like an out-of-work 90s children's television presenter and have him prance around a swimming pool wearing a t-shirt down to his knees and high tops up to his waist, performing a version of Man with the Red Face by Laurent Garnier that would be deemed too insensitive for the prisoners of Guantanamo. And last but not least, I'll finish on this. Any man in his mid-30s or older that wears high tops, they're hiding something. That's my theory. Don't trust a man in his mid to late 30s who wears cartoonishly large high tops. There's something perverted going on there, my friends. Kieran, is that a saxophone in your pocket or are you just deceased?
Take my money.
Introducing the Kentucky Original Wrap from KFC. It's a crispy original recipe fillet in a lightly toasted tortilla with black pepper mayo and iceberg lettuce. It's €2.90. It's a deal. And it's available at KFC now. Grab it before it goes. Until February 9th, subject to availability. Participating restaurants only. Not available on delivery. See website for full T's and C's.
This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Each new year gives us 365 blank pages to fill, and this year could be the perfect time for a plot twist. Maybe there's a chapter you've been meaning to rewrite, or a new journey that you're ready to begin. And having written my own book, I know every writer needs a good editor, and this is exactly where therapy can help. Therapy can be your editorial partner, helping you create a story filled with growth, strength, and meaning. It's not just for major challenges, which is something that it took me a long time to realise. It's about learning healthy coping skills, setting boundaries, and becoming the best version of yourself. With over 5,000 therapists, BetterHelp connects you to mental health professionals with expertise in a wide variety of areas. Write your story with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Megan. That's betterhelp.com/Megan. Oh, it's the weekly roast of funerals, guys. I hope you're enjoying it. If you're new to the show, or if you're a long listener but you have yet to subscribe, could you do me a favour and subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend? Apparently that's what makes all of the difference with chart positions and all of the rest. As some of you will know, we were Apple Podcasts #1 top new comedy podcast of 2024, which is such an honour, and it's all thanks to you for listening. So genuinely, thank you so much. If you're enjoying this episode, please do us a favour and share it with a friend and subscribe to the pod wherever you get it. Thank you so much. We're into the final stretch. If any of you out there are suffering from loss at the moment, you are in our thoughts. And yes, let us continue. All the best.
What's the crack, man? So I was working at a hotel. It was my first job when I was like 17, and we see a lot of funerals in, soup and all the rest of it. So this group came in and they hired like the smaller room. So they were serving soup, and then there was some bottles of fizzy. It could have been champagne. From memory, I think it was champagne. And I was tasked with opening up the bottle. I'd never opened a bottle of champagne before, so didn't know what to expect. Probably should have seen this coming, but sort of tugging the cork off in a real quiet room of people eating their soup. It cracked off a real low ceiling, came back down, hit one of the nannies on the top of the head while she was eating her soup. Don't know if it's show worthy, but might make you laugh anyways.
It did make me laugh, but hold on. Soup and all the rest of it is comfortably the least compassionate description for funeral mourners that I've ever heard in my entire life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so basically we've got the crybabies in after mass for someone's nana, and then the shaggers in for a wedding at 3. Might actually stall a day myself for a wee butcher's hook and see if there's any meat worth seasoning, do you know what I mean? No, I don't. I thought you were the wedding planner. Nevertheless, hitting the nanny execution style in the back of the barnet with a champagne cork is world class. It's, she gets a face full of soup and promptly files a lawsuit. Sorry, interesting, actually. My grandmother, rest in peace, she died in COVID, during COVID, of COVID. 3 people in the course of her lifetime died beside her at weddings, face into soup.
What?
Genuinely. That's a genuine true story. 3 people on 3 different occasions.
Really?
Yeah. Now, to be fair, it happened, it didn't happen over the course of, it didn't happen from the age of 20 until the age of, she died at 96. It happened from 85 on. So she was being sat at certain tables, let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't, So, but yeah. Tugging the cork off. Nobody says it like that. That's not how you describe opening a bottle of champagne. Tugging the cork off sounds like something else, doesn't it, Kieran?
Like what, Mark?
You know what?
I don't.
Well, you've worked in a bar.
Say it.
No,
Say it.
I'm not saying it. Let's go.
Hey Mark, so my nanny died a couple of years ago, and she died at 2 a.m. We were all called up to the house, and what I didn't know is when somebody dies, you have to make sure their mouth is closed. Otherwise, if rigor mortis sets in, it stays open. So we tied a scarf around her chin, and my granddad said, "Oh Jesus, doesn't she look like one of those gypsies?" But she was sitting there with the scarf on, and my poor auntie was sitting beside her, praying and upset and everything. And my mom called out from the kitchen, "Catherine, do you want a cup of tea?" And my poor auntie thought that my nanny had come back to life and was talking to her. So she let out a scream. And while it was entertaining for the rest of us, poor Catherine took a long time to recover.
This is amazing for a couple of reasons. I mean, the first one is, well, let's be honest, your grandfather is wanted by HR, okay, for his problematic comments. Secondly, not even the permanent embrace of death can separate this woman from domestic duties. You know what I mean? That's the saddest element of it. But secondly, or thirdly, whatever number we're on now, this is why I don't take people who believe in ghosts seriously. So, like, so this woman is back from the dead, okay? She's a ghost or whatever, spirit or poltergeist, whatever you want to call it. And what's her first port of call? Is it to go over and see which one of her exes are mourning her loss? Nah. Is it to see how they're going to divide the will? Nah. No, I'm going to see if Miriam wants a cup of tea. Do you know what I mean? What an unadventurous ghost. I remember when my granddad died. I've spoken about it before in the podcast. He died on Christmas Day, and his name was Noel. 2004. It was 20 years this year. Just gone by, and we were all out in him and my granny's house around Christmas time. Afterwards, he died in France, and it was a fucking nightmare trying to get the body back and all of the rest. But I think we ended up having the funeral on New Year's Day. Anyway, there was that period of like between Christmas and New Year's where all the grandkids were just like out in my grandmother's house and we were just arsing around. And one time I was walking through the hall and I noticed that his phone was on the counter, and it was like a Nokia 7210 or something, so it could go like a month without getting charged. But he had got there was 63 messages on it or something, which is back in the day, like that was insane. And it was like, curiosity got the better of me. So I picked up the phone and was just looking at texts. And there was messages coming in from people said their condolence messages, but they were sending them to my granddad. And I swear to God, to this day, I've never been able to summon the willpower that I did that day to not text some of them back and go, ooh, it's me. As if that's what a ghost would do. Do you know what I mean? Oh, good luck.
It was the night before the funeral when people gather in the house and they do the rosary and prayers around the body, and the layperson who's in the church, who sometimes comes instead of the priest, arrived with their holy water and their prayer book, but have forgotten the greenery that they sometimes use. They dip into the holy water and they use it to sprinkle it. So before they rang the doorbell, realised their error. There was greenery growing in the garden. She broke a branch sprig type thing off the evergreen tree, went in, did her bits, did her rosary, the prayers, shook the holy water over the body. After she had done it and left, they realised that the body was now crawling in green fly from the garden. So the relative of the deceased had to take out a handheld Dyson and hoover the green fly off the body in the coffin. It just tickled my dark humour.
You don't see that in the old Dyson ads, don't you not? You don't see, here's my work in a day, I got up. You don't see those reels going, I went down to the church and then I used the Dyson on my uncle. This is absolutely perfect for all those pesky pine needles under Christmas trees or any bits of muck or foliage that get stuck to a loved one's corpse, This next one I think is my favourite from the entire show. It's... I'm just going to play it.
Hi Mark, I was at a funeral recently, standing at the foot of the coffin chatting to one of the family members, and to my shock horror, another family member is up lifting the dead man's head up out of the coffin, trying to put a hat on him. The man was dead 6 or 7 days at this stage, solid cold. The head was nearly breaking off the man's shoulders. The few people that were left in the room started hysterically screaming at him to stop. I thought the funeral director was going to need his own coffin at this point. It's absolutely the most craziest thing I've ever seen.
Why are you putting a hat on the dead man's head? He's not a fucking snowman. Do you know what I mean? This is like a sinister deleted scene from the weekend of Bernie's. Do you know what I mean? Propping up the corpse, leaning him against the grand piano with a cigarette in the corner of his mouth and a tumbler of whiskey glued to his withered vascular rigor mortis wrist. This is just completely insane. Also, dare I ask, what was the hat? Because, how much of a fan of anything would somebody have to be in order for a punter to think, yeah, do you know what, I'm just going to go up and interfere with the body there? Was he that much of a Yankees fan? You know what I mean? No, he's from Monasterevan. Okay, don't bother with the hat. This is absolutely, as you might say, my boy, saddle up, it's a new year and the stars are all aligning. Derangement levels.
A couple of years ago, my mum's cousin Brian died. Brian lived in back Cavan. So we said we'd go on over to the wake anyway, myself, my mum and my sister.
So 3 of us in a box of buns got in the car, headed on over, driving for about an hour, and then pulled into the house. And Mum went into the room first, and she looked around, and she was like, God, it's been so long, I don't recognise any of you. And then she walks on up to the top of the coffin to your man sitting there and hands over the buns and says, oh, and who are you? And he says, oh, I'm the eldest son. And Mum says, but Brian didn't have any kids. And then Mum looks down and sees that it's a woman in the coffin. And the man replies back, oh, my dear woman, you have the wrong wake. So Mum proceeds to take the buns back off this poor man who is grieving his son, proceeds to leave the room. She's leaving the room, and then she apologises as she's going. And myself and my sister, in pure panic, are just giving our sympathies to everyone around us. We're so sorry for your loss, blah, blah. And whilst they're all laughing, think it's hilarious. So we carry on then, and we're way on into our car. One of the other sons said he'd give us a wee drive up the road, show us where we're actually going. And then whenever we got into the wake we were meant to go to, the first thing my aunt says to us is, oh, did you find the house? It's been a right while since we've been here. And that was it.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It happens. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast. It's great to be back, and it's great to have you with us. If you enjoy the show, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram at Megan Mark. Let me know the parts of the show that you particularly enjoyed. I love hearing from you, as you know. Any suggestions on things that you'd like to see or hear roasted, send me a DM as well on Instagram at Megan Mark. And as you know, if you enjoy my content every week, I release a new article on Patreon, patreon.com/Mark Megan. There's lots of additional content and exclusive stuff coming your way over there. So if you're a fan, click subscribe. The link is in the bio. I would hugely appreciate it. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing you soon. All the best. Take care. This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Each new year gives us 365 blank pages to fill, and this year could be the perfect time for a plot twist. Maybe there's a chapter you've been meaning to rewrite, or a new journey that you're ready to begin. And having written my own book, I know every writer needs a good editor, and this is exactly where therapy can help. Therapy can be your editorial partner, helping you create a story filled with growth, strength, and meaning. It's not just for major challenges, which is something that it took me a long time to realise. It's about learning healthy coping skills, setting boundaries, and becoming the best version of yourself. With over 5,000 therapists, BetterHelp connects you to mental health professionals with expertise in a wide variety of areas. Write your story with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Megan. That's betterhelp.com/Megan.